I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of Off the Rails podcast. I'm your host, Kenny, and I'm here with...
I am Tony, and I am here with...
Hola, I am Taylor.
That was probably one of the better intros that we've had.
Unfortunately,
Ian's not
Shrek
here.
is not here.
We do not have Ian joining us today, for he has the sniffles.
Yep. He got himself the
Sniffle schnoo.
He got a runny nose and decided to not show up today.
He decided that he was so bad that he had to pee sitting down, so he can no longer join us on the podcast.
You know he is going to kill all of you when he hears this, right?
That's if he hears it. He's already openly admitted that he doesn't listen to our own streams.
Wow. That's what an interesting thing.
So,
what do we got playing in the background?
It's Call of Duty.
Cool.
Yeah,
I can always appreciate some Call of Duty.
Yeah, I got Call of Duty in the background there.
It's going to stick to the foil.
It is. Let go.
Fight for it. You got to want it.
I'm going to take one more here.
I left you all of the actual wings, too, because I took the legs.
Oh, these are all mine?
Yeah. I ate the other half of what was on the board. Thanks for making those, Taylor. We had wings.
The Buffaloes one should be done here in a
for
second.
Podcasts, and I just have a good special place in my heart for
Hey, Taylor, really quick, you have your headphones?
wings.
Right? Will you quality check the stream for me, please?
It would really suck if the mics were going all jank all of a sudden.
Yeah, that would be. I don't have my headphones with me, otherwise I'd be
You're
following
really
this.
quiet, Tony.
Yeah, how do I fix
You're
that?
really quiet. I have no idea. How do you fix it?
I don't know. I'm going to figure it out, though. Let's see what
Survey
I can
says
do.
turn up the volume.
Volume's all the way up. It's
Hey, our associate hasn't jumped in immediately. That's new.
Well, we're usually we're late.
You're late.
So let's see here.
I don't even know what his sleep schedule is like.
How about now? How's that?
Talor.
It keeps freezing. I'm waiting to hear it. Hold on.
Give it a second. It's freezing. Why is it freezing?
I don't know. It keeps...
McDonald's Wi-Fi. Who do you go through? Dog water? You know what's funny about So, the elite
That sounds better.
All right.
The elite non-branded country-supported military group, Blackwater. But then there's the super bad, like F tier, no one will hire, bad military organization called Dogwater. They botch every mission. I want to see that in a skit. You've heard of the elite paramilitary group known as Blackwater. Yes? They can solve all problems. They're kind of like the A-Team. Yes? We're not those guys. We're an entity known as Dogwater. You can hire us, but it might not be worth it. Is that the Buffalo Wings?
I'm totally down for that, by the way. We should totally do that.
The mitt is on the, and then the sauce is still in the box. Sorry, I'm listening to see if Paisley's still awake. The sauce is still in the box? Yeah.
I know that Ian would be down for that, too.
I think my kid's still awake.
They're nuggets.
Just put it right here. I put these out to put them here.
Where'd you put the box?
I think it's over by the microwave.
Oh.
So I was chewing up these wings, right? And this one like had to have gotten like stepped on or something, but it was just like shrapnel.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we're done with all the dead time, sorry about that.
Sorry,
Well,
they
yeah,
were
because we
stuffing
went like
their
a couple of
faces.
minutes with like no sound.
Well, I got up from the
I know you got up from the table, and then like Taylor just decided to go quiet and was dancing in her seat.
Well, I was listening for my child. Mm,
Big news.
And then, yes, I was dancing in
So
my
I
seat.
decided I want to start off by telling you guys a funny little thing that I did.
You came out of
last
the
night.
closet. Sorry, that this seemed like a funny thing to say at the time.
Wow. No.
Oh, I missed it. I don't know.
It has nothing to do with geopolitics.
Now that image will not leave your head.
So last night I was I've been working out, right? Trying to get healthy, get back into shape.
You don't say.
Yeah. And last night I went and I worked out, and then I went home and I made a boo-boo.
I don't like making boo-boos.
I went home and I ate.
McDonald's.
You are stupid.
I ate half of a family-sized pizza from Papa Murphy's.
That doesn't sound too bad. That honestly doesn't. What kind of pizza was it?
With garlic and ranch.
That doesn't sound bad at all.
Chicken ranch.
I can forgive that.
Yeah, but like you're not supposed to eat that much.
Sure, whatever.
I ate half the pizza by myself.
Doesn't bother me.
Well, of course it doesn't bother you.
So-
You have the metabolism of like a jet plane.
I
I eat less than both of you.
You good, buddy?
That's pretty funny. Okay. I don't remember what I was gonna say.
Oh, I derailed Kenny. I win
so-
internet.
Lately, I've been trying to cut out fast food, but I ended up eating McDonald's today because I went to DoorDash, and I had them delivered to the art center.
Yeah.
So I had a spicy crispy chicken sandwich
Yeah.
with a large Dr. Pepper, which was probably the worst thing I could have got. Getting a large soda
Sorry, I burnt myself.
and large fry. Well, don't do that.
I did that the other day too. I got a scar on my knuckles now because I pulled something out of the oven and burnt my hand.
Why is you the way you is?
Because I'm a klutz and I'm gonna have. Another.
How are you alive
But
today?
I would like to know this.
I haven't been
answer
necessarily
too.
been trying to lose weight, but I've been trying to, because I pay for a lot of takeout in my life. It's just what I've been doing. So I've been trying to cut down on the takeout, which I was really bad about today because I ended up getting McDonald's. But I've been cutting out takeout, trying to eat somewhat semi-organic, and then I've
Yeah.
been downing 2 Activia cups a day. Activia the yogurt to help with my intestinal tract to try and flush everything out. That's why my my bathroom visits have been so long and enduring lately. Fritos, huh? I recommend it, if at least for gut health. Gut health is super important. That way, even if on the chance occasion you were to put something bad in your stomach, you have the built-up bacteria cultures to help fight it off. You know, it's an interesting thing to do, as I'm going to segue into geopolitics right now. Whenever you go to another country,
No.
I wouldn't necessarily trust the street vendors in other countries because you don't know what exactly they're putting in their food. Even in developed countries like China, where they will siphon oil out of the sewer that's previously been used by other companies for their grills. Ugh. So, whenever you go
That's just
somewhere,
recycling.
that's... Why are you eating that right into the microphone? Why do you say the things that you say?
It's what it is. It's recycling.
The point I'm trying to get at is that building up bacteria
The
culture...
point that he's trying to get is that Kenny hates the world, and he promotes pollution and waste.
It helps you digest foreign foods by building up the bacteria culture in your stomach. You can fight off different diseases that you may ingest through unsanitary food. You know, unsanitary food was a bigger killer of men in World War II. Nope, not World War II. Hold on. Let me backtrack.
I was going to say, you might want to rethink that statement.
The Civil War. The Civil War.
I can believe that.
More people died from unsanitary conditions, to include food, than from fighting between the two sides. That's nutty. So here's
You know what else is nutty?
that's a little tidbit for you, and before you get going, geopolitics. Do you guys happen to know
Paydays are nutty.
paydays? Oh. I wasn't thinking the candy bar when you first said that.
I immediately knew what he was talking about. Really? Are you already vibrating my chair?
Yeah, I've been working out. Things happen. Anyways, you were talking about geopolitics. And how you hate the world.
And I don't know how you got on that.
Because you don't support recycling. Right?
You are definitely the caboose of this train. Tony, hot
Andy.
take.
Yes.
What are the 7 oceans of the world?
Was that a hot take or a pop quiz? A hot take would be like an unpopular opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to quiz me.
So what can you tell me?
The 7 oceans?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I couldn't tell you much about it. I don't know that much. Let's see. Are there 7 oceans? I thought there were 7 seas. There's.
Call them seas. That's fine.
Well, I mean, there's a difference.
You're a difference.
Your mom's a difference.
She does make a difference. I'm built different.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yeah, you're built to hate the world.
Tony,
I'm built to
Tony,
hate the world. I
Tony,
thought I was
Tony,
a
sorry,
jet plane.
I'm really excited about this. Look what I found. I found a game.
Oh, send that to me, please. It's a Doctor Who game.
It's a Doctor Who game.
It is. It's a Doctor Who game.
The 7 seas. I don't really know. Antarctic, Dead Sea, the Red Sea, Caribbean Sea.
What the?
Yeah, you said the 7 seas.
You can do better than that, you secondhand grease gobbler.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm listing
The Red
seas.
Sea is not one of the seas.
Isn't it?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Mediterranean?
Nope.
Oh. Okay, then I don't
Pacific.
Anything that's like a really big bay.
Pacific and the Atlantic, and that's
Is
all I
it
know.
called the Mediterranean Sea?
Oh, and the Gulf of Mexico.
Is it called the
It's
Mediterranean
not one of the
Sea?
7 oceans.
There's not 7 oceans.
There is 7
There's
oceans.
7 seas. There's not 7 oceans.
There's 7 oceans. Get over yourself.
You name off the 7 oceans.
You're going to hate this.
Probably.
I guarantee you're going to hate this because this is going to get really, really unnecessary. The Arctic Sea, the Antarctic
It's
Sea.
not oceans. You.
There are oceans. The Arctic Sea, the Antarctic Sea, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean. Now, the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean are split up into 2 oceans, the North and South Pacific Ocean and the North and South Atlantic Ocean. There's your 7. Those are the major oceans.
2 of those are seas.
Doesn't matter, buddy.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
This is semantics. These are similes. Those are your 7 oceans and or seas, whether you like it or not. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Those. The
Facts
facts are
don't
that
care
2 of those are seas.
about
That's in the
your feelings.
name. Put it up to the chat. Chat, you throw in.
We have a coworker that likes to say stuff like that, but like out of pocket and unprovoked.
What?
And it
Facts don't care about your feelings?
Well, something to that effect. He doesn't say that specifically.
Like, we have a coworker currently.
I have to admit, it gets kind of annoying.
At our, like, occupation?
Yeah, at our job, at our location, physical site.
Oh. Yes. No, that definitely.
It does get annoying. It does. Unprovoked too.
I completely agree. 100%.
Do you guys know which ocean is the biggest?
The Pacific.
I was gonna say yeah, Pacific.
Which ocean is the smallest?
Probably one of the ones that's a sea. No, it's the what you called it? The Indian Ocean.
Yeah, the Indian Ocean is one of them.
Yeah, Indian.
Are you just agreeing with Tony? What's happening right now?
Yeah, that one I was agreeing with Tony.
It is, in fact, the Indian Ocean. I don't know which one of you knows more about oceans. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You think you know more about oceans? What is the deepest point in our oceans?
Not a clue.
The Mariana Trench.
Marianas Trench.
That's what I meant to say.
Marianas Trench is the deepest point in our oceans. Do you know about how many miles deep Marianas Trench is?
Was it like 1,000 leagues or something like
I
that?
don't even know. I'm going to have to Google it.
It's at least 2.
It is.
It's at least 2.
It doesn't say immediately on the wiki page, which is, it said 2 miles deep. Is that what you said?
At least 2 feet. Does that not count? Can A?
Its lowest point is known as Challenger's Deep, which for some reason I didn't understand that those were part of the same thing.
For real?
What? I'm not doing anything.
Nearly 7 miles deep. That's pretty deep.
7 miles? Yeah, that actually,
Nearly 7 miles deep.
yeah, that's pretty deep.
Wow. You know how many Taylors we could fit in there?
At least 2.
I didn't know that I was.
Over 3 miles tall.
Yeah.
I said at least 2. That means that there's room to fit more.
Tony, everyone.
Am I wrong?
Get,
Go ahead and tell me I'm wrong.
You gotta get
Facts don't
yourself.
care about your feelings, Kenny.
You gotta get yourself a Tony. There's no way. Everyone, get yourself a Tony. He will brighten up your day with conversations
Or
you
draw
would
you to
never
drinking.
expect to have.
What?
Taylor, where is the Strait of Gibraltar?
Not a clue. I honestly have not a clue. I know nothing. I don't remember anything from my geography class.
Oh dear. Okay, this one might be the easiest one. Where is the Bering Strait? I've brought this up on previous podcasts. Where is the Bering Strait?
I don't know. I usually tune out the
Um,
geopolitics.
The Bering Strait goes. It's the land, the frozen bridge between Alaska and Russia.
That's not the name of the land. That's
No, but it's that area.
Yeah, it's the creep of water that goes in between Russia and Alaska. Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
Bering Strait. What is the Strait of Gibraltar?
Did you know, really quick, before we go on with that one? Also, I don't know that answer. But how I remember the Bering Strait was because of a movie that I watched starring Vin Diesel. I think it was Babylon AD. So
I
he's a-
honestly thought you were about to say pacifier.
No, it's not the best. Sorry. No, Babylon AD. It's post-apocalyptic world. He's a mercenary that lives in Moscow or something like that, and he's paid to take this girl from there to America, and they got to cross the strait. So that's how I
Oh.
remember. Anyways, yeah. Also, don't know.
The Strait of Gibraltar is the opening that leads into the Mediterranean Sea. right there at the top of the Tiberian Peninsula.
Interesting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's how you want to get in and out. The Strait of Gibraltar will do it,
You know what's sad?
which is a huge gateway for any sort of commerce
What?
that goes through the Mediterranean Sea.
Uh,
You know whose navy
I'll
kind of
never
relies
go
on
and see
that?
These places.
You what?
Neither
I
will
said
I.
I'll never go and see these places.
Like, subscribe, send us all the money you have. We need to send Tony to places.
I've barely been out of the state of Oregon, man.
Your kids need to hurry up and grow up. Your ball and chain is more than one. You kind of remind me of like that ghost that visited Scrooge.
Wait, what did I get that look for?
Maybe you're one of his chains.
No.
I mean,
no,
he's
she's not.
he's got like 8 or 9 chains, and none of them are
It
mine.
was as long and as
I only
heavy
have
as
7
mine
kids.
7
8,
Christmases
including
ago.
Christina.
Or however many Christmases it was.
I wouldn't really call her a ball and chain. So
You do you, boo.
especially
The-
not, on a recorded podcast that she can go back to and review.
Understandable.
By the way, I kind of threw us all under the bus
Why? Why do
So-
you do this?
when I went with Christina to a non-exclusive, location to take her away from your killed children. I told her that we were going
A
to
bar!
send Gavin into a haunted house to get rid of a bunch of ghosts. And she laughed.
I mean, that's
She's
what we were
laughing
talking
because
about.
she knows it'll work.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Are you just like looking up things to ask us?
No,
on
I'm
the
looking
phone?
at a map
Yeah, he is. He's
because
looking at
I
the
was trying to remember where the Black Sea was, or if its name was actually the Black Sea. The only way to get into the Black Sea right now, unless you have a river or delta that comes from your country into the Black Sea, is through Istanbul. Istanbul is levying some mighty huge taxes on a particular country that we all know.
Why isn't it Istanbul plate?
Well, why is it Istan fork?
I don't know. I'd go for an Istanbul spoon right now,
What about an Istan spork?
or an Istanbul cup.
What if it was like an Istan saucer? So it could be used as a plate or a bowl. It's just a very shallow bowl, but it's wide.
An Istanbul pan. That way it functions as all three, and you can cook whatever you want on it.
Anyways, Russia. Part of Russia's naval fleet is in the Black Sea. The only way they can get in and out is through the capital of Istanbul. Oh, excuse me. Istanbul itself is the capital of Turkey.
The capital of Istanbul pan.
I don't remember what this canal is called that exists here. But this canal cuts Istanbul in half. And ships be waiting a long time to get through there to get into the Black Sea. Including the Navy of Russia. But here's another thing. They've been levying some mighty fierce taxes against Russia going in and out of that canal. But there is a payoff for Russia because foreign powers aren't allowed to put their naval power through that canal. So here's where it gets tricky for Russia. Man, it sucks paying all these taxes that they're levying at this checkpoint in Istanbul. But if we choose to stop paying those taxes, all of a sudden American naval power can just come in and park in the Black Sea.
I was trying to give Tony a seizure.
So Russia, although they don't want to pay these taxes to Turkey to control their navy power in the Black Sea, because the Black Sea puts no navy will ever be closer to Moscow than in the Black Sea. That's why it's so good. It's a huge problem for Russia if American naval power can all of a sudden just start occupying the Black Sea. Because then we're literally at their doorstep. Hey, what's going on, Putin? I can see you from my battleships. I can see Russia from my house, said Sarah Palin. But from the Black Sea. So, as things stand right now, Russia's taking the taxes. That way they have a defense in their agreement with Turkey against foreign naval power in the Black Sea. Since we don't control any actual continental territory within the Black Sea, we're not allowed in there. Understandable. I can see why people don't want a foreign naval power just wandering around in the Black Sea. We don't have any business in there, so what have you. That's my geopolitical thing for you guys today. That's why Russia's paying out the nose to Turkey for a gateway they can't control into a very, very, I'd say, soft underbelly of the Russian fleet. The Black Sea. Dun dun dun. The only way you can get there is from the Mediterranean, which is why the Strait of Gibraltar is so important. U.S. naval forces have no problem going through the Strait of Gibraltar. Thoughts, opinions, questions, comments, concerns? Dun dun dun.
I agree that we have no business being there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I just I think that we should be done occupying in other countries.
No, we need embassies. And then having bases in foreign territories is actually a pretty good boon to us logistically, because it allows us to wage whatever front we want from just about anywhere. I'm not a fan of like Team America World Police, but I do like having bases outside of our continental U.S.
I think for me, I'm just tired of living in a time with war all the time.
Well, I'm glad that the 20-year war is over. I'm not glad of how it happened or what's been left behind. I'm glad it's over.
Mm-hmm.
We could have done it so much better.
Agreed.
Other than exfiltrating and leaving everything. There's a lot of money we left. It's really hard when people keep coming down on the American government, the United States government, by saying that we spend more than the next 7 nations combined for our defense budget.
Yeah,
when we leave that money
we do spend
in the hands
more
of
money.
terrorists.
We do spend more money in our defense
Now,
budget. That money also goes to other countries.
I'll be the first to tell you that if I had any sort of power, I would audit the U.S. military. Without a shadow of a doubt. I would go so far as to audit everything within the Department of Defense. I want a rap sheet. I don't care how long it is. I want to know why things are being spent the way they are. As
Why
being somebody that's in the
literal
Army,
trillions of dollars that just goes missing.
as someone that's come from inside the Army and still in the Army, I have a pretty good idea of where these things are going. And I wouldn't necessarily like lower, which is probably not what people want to hear. I wouldn't necessarily lower the amount of money the Department of Defense is getting. In most aspects, like if there's flagrant disregard of spending, then people need to be held accountable for that, and I'm sure I'll find it. But we need to put the people first, our soldiers. And if the number one expense on that rap sheet when I get it is not the American soldier, airman, sailor, guard, what have you, I'm going to have a cow. There's no way we should be spending this much money, and the fighting force, the actual entity that goes out and wins wars, is not the number one expense. I'm going to have a cow.
Yeah, if you look at the
Heads are going to roll.
if you look at the government as a business, any business is going to tell you that the greatest commodity is the employees. That goes to it. Any customer-based business, any service-based business like that, the employees, the base level, entry level employees, is the commodity. That is what makes it work. So I agree that that should be happening in the for the military, because they're our guys. There are people, we should be taking care of them. They should be our priority to that, That's all I'm saying. I basically just, yeah, I agree with you on that.
So, yeah, I do think that the Department of Defense does have a history of flagrantly casting tons and tons of money aside for a lot of various things. And how you described our budget planning for our current job, imagine that, but to the nth degree for a much larger entity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we spent that much money on the budget this year. That means we get more next year because we spent all of it. But when the fiscal year runs around, they're like, oh, we have all this money left on the budget and we haven't spent it yet. Quick, everyone get new cars.
Yeah.
What?
There needs to be an audit done on that. There needs to be an audit done with the IRS needs to be audited, and the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve is a whole different animal. The fact that we are constantly coming up with newfangled ideas to balance the budget sheets for our economy right now is a monster. And I'm confident Jerome Powell is hiding under his desk right now crying from the nightmare fuel that is constantly generating in our economy. That's an entirely different story, and it's not going to be fixed through an audit. There's no way.
No, but an audit is a first step that needs to be happening. You have to figure out where stuff is going before you can figure out how to fix it.
It's hard to figure out because a lot of this at this point it's just imaginary numbers, and it's really hard to track things that
it's always been imaginary numbers.
Not necessarily.
Since like the beginning of it.
By about the time we transitioned from gold-backed currency to oil-backed currency, we started going into real heavy imaginary numbers.
When you started the minute you started borrowing from what you could not back, it became imaginary numbers, and that's where they screwed up with to begin with. The minute they started doing that,
I wouldn't necessarily say that early on. I think it's definitely when we switched what was backing our currency.
Just I mean, it's a basic rule of business. You don't account for money you don't have. Period.
It was. I understand why Alexander Hamilton started our country at a deficit because he wanted to build credit, which is always a good idea to build credit. We just never got out of it. Ever. And
we're never
we
going
solved
to
the problem
borrowing from ourselves.
Once upon a time. We solved the problem by escalating ourselves into a world power during World War II. Yay, USA, we became a world power. Awesome.
You want to get into global? I'm sorry to interrupt
but
you. Can I interrupt you really quick?
Sure.
I'm going to derail this one on that one. You want to get into talking like the global things. I actually, I was listening to a podcast. Ironically, this subject came up. Not ironically, coincidentally.
Okay.
This subject came up on it, and how our economy was getting fixed because of us escalating ourselves into a world power after World War II. Had a lot to do with the fact that we destroyed the infrastructure of other countries, and so then it was we were the best manufacturers at that time. Buy American, because you can't buy from Japan, you can't buy from Germany, you can't buy from any other place because the war just destroyed all of that infrastructure in those other countries.
Yep. That's also why making our currency oil backed instead of gold backed was so important, because the global trade, the most important thing was oil. Everyone wanted oil. And you can think what you will about the decisions that were made by the White House during the Bush presidency, but there is a reason why we took such strong hold of the Middle East. And America became the de facto tradesmith for oil-backed currency. We did it for a reason. We had a death grip on the economy of the world. If somebody wanted oil, they better use American dollars. If you didn't have American dollars, you better get American dollars, because it's the only way you're going to get oil. And that's why it mattered so much on the global scale. It's not that people were like, oh, I want American dollars in my country because it represents American freedom. No, it's because they wanted oil, and we weren't giving anybody oil unless they gave us American dollars. But how are we giving them American dollars? They had to buy stock. And we sold stock like criminals. And people would buy them at explosive rates. All of a sudden, they had American dollars. But they owed us so much. And they used those American dollars not to pay off their debts, but to buy oil. Now, actually, a lot of people owe us money. Not in much the same way that China owes, or we owe China money. A lot of what's going on between us and China, though, is not necessarily because of oil, because China still has to come to us for oil. And
Yeah,
people like to bring out
for now. They're still in negotiations with the Saudis in order to become the oil-backed currency.
We'll see. We'll see. A lot of people like to make fun of America, like we have a lot of infighting going on, and like, oh, we're always under threat of civil war. First of all, Russia is collapsing at an alarming rate. China is apparently... I'm wondering when enough is enough and China's going to start revolting, because they are currently massacring their own people in their western provinces. There are so many native Chinese that are being massacred because they refuse to join the dominant religion and basically political regime. China's in a hurt locker. Now they may be able to stride with us economically to a degree and militarily, and they're probably going to be the one nation that we really have to watch out for in the future when it comes to war, modern warfare, that is. But no nation's morale in terms of a military that can stand to us in some small degree will ever compete with our morale. The American troops are the best, most well-trained, capable fighters on any battlefield, bar none. Even when China during the Korean War pushed us back, being the first time ever in American history, I'm going to say the first time in American modern history, maybe, somewhere in there, that the United States was ever pushed back in any sort of land warfare. And that was mostly because we told our guys to retreat because they were just farming XP off the Chinese. So I don't even think China wants to start anything with us. Mostly because we dwarf their navy, and we can logistically hold any battle on any front that we choose. No other country can do that. Not a single one. Which is why we will never fight a war on our territory, the actual continental United States, unless it's from Canada or Mexico. Because nobody can wage a logistical war against us on our home front. Red Dawn's a fun story to read about, but there's no way those guys were lobbying supplies back and forth to keep that war front going for longer than a month. No way. No way. The only way that's really even possible is if somehow, some way, they convinced Mexico or Canada to help them.
You know, I think that was kind of the point of those stories, the Red Dawn stories, is that even though an attack is possible, albeit a futile one.
Very futile.
Yeah.
Considering that the American civilian is like the third largest army.
I mean,
in terms of...
as long as certain policies don't prevail, but yes.
Screw those policies. The more and more I hear about it, outside of buying a car, the Greater Idaho Initiative is sounding pretty good.
Dude, I liked it just for the fact that it's a constitutional carry.
Is by far going to be the weirdest looking state. You know what would really fix our problems? And I said this to one of our coworkers, and he thought it was, obviously, because he stands on the other side of the spectrum from us, but he thought it was dumb, but It's the smallest amount you could possibly move, and it would make a huge difference. We won't be in Idaho, but take, for example, of all the counties in Oregon, take Multnomah County and put it in Washington. That's moving the least amount of land mass, but making the same kind of difference we're all looking for.
I mean, if you just like, not just Multnomah County, but if you take like that whole top corner right there.
Not necessarily, because things like up in Astoria aren't necessarily so heavily Democratic. But
One second. If I don't view this, it's going to disappear.
okay. That's not a video playing in the background, is it? Taylor, did you do that? Did you orchestrate that?
She did that.
I did it. I did two of them actually. Yeah.
No, 4.
Oh no! Was it 4?
Yeah, there's 4.
Well, it should only be 2, but probably long enough.
But yeah, I accidentally clicked on it, and so it was like, hey, we're gonna play this through. I was like, crap. So I gotta. You only get one replay with it.
I'm okay with joining Idaho, but there's a lot of Oregon territory that's going to be joining Idaho, and apparently some of California. But I'm telling you, we'd solve a lot of problems for Oregon if, and I'm going to say gerrymander, because really a lot of times that's kind of what it is, but if we could vote it in and just make Multnomah County a part of Washington, which would make the line kind of weird because the Columbia River is really the line separating Oregon from Washington. And then there's that little bit of land on our side. It'll be Multnomah County, which I'm okay with because there's already a bridge that goes from Vancouver to Portland Metro, which is Multnomah County in general anyways. But if we give Multnomah County over to Washington, we would be a Republican state.
But they don't want to go. Is the thing. That's the problem with it.
Sucks for them.
That right.
You know how funny that vote would be, though?
Mm-hmm.
This is a vote to see if we dismiss Multnomah County from Oregon, and it's instead taken in by Washington.
We also need to get Washington on board. You see, Idaho's on board with the Greater Idaho Initiative because they want the resources. Multnomah County also wants the resources. Therefore, that's why they're fighting it. They don't want to let go of Eastern Oregon because we feed them.
We feed them. Also, it matters in the House of Representatives.
Correct. They'll lose
Because Idaho will get a bunch.
8 seats.
No, they'll lose one.
Just one.
Yeah, we're only one district. Our half of Oregon is one district. Of the 5, we are one district. Oregon will lose one representative, and Idaho will gain whatever they want.
I could have sworn it was a lot
Nope.
more than that.
Oregon, we are the 5th district. We are one representative.
I'm running for office. Oh.
I don't know what in total the population and landmass, because when we take the Greater Idaho initiative and we start incorporating ourselves into Idaho, the federal government combined with the state of Idaho will determine the district lines. And the district lines will determine... No, thank you. I appreciate it. The district lines will determine how many new representatives Idaho gets. And you can imagine, with all the ferocity that they can possibly muster, the Democrats don't want that to happen. They don't want Idaho to gain any more land. They don't want them to gain more population, because that means that Republicans get more representatives in the House of Reps. And that's the biggest problem they have with it. I get that we feed them and whatnot, and it's all part of the same state. But what the politicians at the federal level are really worried about is the fact that Idaho is about to get 2 or more reps.
I'm sure you're right on that one, but I'm not thinking about the politicians. I'm thinking about the citizens, the Oregonians, that what they would be concerned about. Why?
I think the Willamette Valley is just worried about keeping it weird, and that's all they got going on.
Leave us out of it. I mean, we're weird enough as it is.
Nope.
We're a different kind of weird, though.
I'm super okay with the Greater Idaho Initiative. I am real curious as to how they would draw those district lines.
They have,
Do they have a map of district lines?
I believe so. They have a map of it.
How many districts do they have? How many districts are in Idaho alone?
I have
right
no
now?
idea.
How many?
Apparently, I didn't know how many districts we had.
How many representatives are for Idaho? How many representatives does Idaho have?
I'm gonna say like maybe
3.
3, because it's a smaller state.
Taylor, that's your job now. I'm sicking you on Google. How many representatives represent Idaho in the House of Reps?
How many what? Sorry.
You could just say how many districts are there in Idaho. If not, how many reps does Idaho have? How many House reps does Idaho have? We'll really get to the heart of the problem. How many reps does the state of Idaho have?
I know a lot of people that are against it for very superficial reasons.
Idaho is divided into 35 districts.
That doesn't sound right. Nope.
No.
I guess we're using districts for different terms. Then
You use how many House representatives?
that's fine. She didn't know. She did exactly what I asked her.
I know. I'm offering a separate.
How many
different,
reps do they have in the
search.
House of Representatives? How many? There's probably so many people listening to the podcast right now, and they're like, "It's this! I swear!" Comment down below if you have the answer.
You just read it, Taylor.
Oh, this is the House legislator for the state of Idaho, buddy.
I don't know.
That's all right. We can always just ask Google again.
All right, hold on. 70?
No.
No, that's
There's
over.
no way.
It says the House Representatives is comprised.
2.
of
They have 2.
They have 2.
70.
I found what I was looking for. They have 2.
There's only 2 districts?
Well,
In
no
Idaho?
wonder they want it.
Holy bananas.
Then they can get a whole whopping 3.
Depending upon...
California has 52.
That's no, I can't comment on that. I know why they do. I can't say why.
The second highest is Texas with 38.
Taylor, might have another.
That was the only pale ale that I have, but I have.
I'm
this
wondering-
German one that you can try.
If they
I don't
keep
think
the
it's
way
Idaho.
that the district
Okay.
line is drawn in Oregon, and they only take half of Oregon. Now, I've seen the Greater Idaho Initiative look way different. I've seen a Greater Idaho Initiative where it takes most of Oregon, which is crazy to me, and I find that hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes everything except for, like, that upper left chunk. Like, it's taken Oregon all the way to, like, the ocean front. I've seen a map of that, which I find is wild. So I'm only going to assume, for the sake of this discussion, that it takes District 5 and no more, which is half the state, to be fair. But that only offers them 1 representative if they keep that district as it is. If we only equate to a population that equals 1 representative, then Idaho was only gaining 1. Oregon loses 1. So that's Republicans gaining 1, Democrats losing 1. Oregon still has more Democratic representatives than Idaho would have Republican. Now, I've also seen the Greater Idaho Initiative taking parts of California. That's a whole different kind of mess, because I have no idea how those district lines are going to get drawn down there.
I don't think that will ever happen. There is no way California is seceding any ground.
I don't know. I guess at that point, it's entirely up to the members of those counties. Because at some point, they do have a say as to whether or not they want to be inside California. Secession is always on the table, whether we like it or not.
I don't have an opinion.
What gets
about
real
that. One
awkward
way or
is
the
when
other.
those counties are like landlocked inside and they're not bordering. That's when it gets weird. I secede from being in California. You're in the dead center, Death Valley. I now identify as Nevada. There's a little bit of Nevada in the center of California.
I mean, that's how we got Alaska, right?
No, Russia sold that to us.
How did? Okay,
They thought it was. They
Nope.
thought. No,
Nope.
honestly,
we're good.
Russia was like, it's not going to amount to anything. Who cares? And then we became the greatest cargo
Oil.
shipping global power ever. Oh yeah, and all the oil.
So all the cargo, all the oil, all of the things.
We have access to the North Atlantic Sea trade. We're the reason why Russia doesn't have absolute control over the Bering Strait. You're welcome, world. We may be pretty pious about controlling certain monetary values, but we allow the world to partake in it, if greedily. But Russia wouldn't be doing that.
Agreed. So to switch the subject,
Meow. Hit the lever.
y'all
Switch the tracks.
y'all watch Terminator?
Which one?
Yes.
I've seen the first one, and maybe Judgment Day.
It's been a long while since I watched those.
Maybe Judgment
I think
Day.
I've seen Judgment
Like
Day.
T2's the best one.
I hear that it's really good.
It's the best one.
I hear it's really good.
So, excuse me.
Kung Fu Panda.
We're coming pretty close.
Was a really funny movie.
Yeah, that was. I like Kung Fu Panda.
It was the first movie to make me LOL in theater.
Really?
Yeah. I've never been in an actual movie theater and saw a movie that was so funny that like I fell over into another seat laughing so hard. I've never had that experience since.
I loved. I really liked Kung Fu Panda. Back on the subject that I was talking about.
What's your favorite Terminator?
T2. That's the best one. I just said that.
I mean, like
Hands
the
down.
actual Terminators themselves. What's your
Oh.
favorite Terminator? Bandwagon.
That's a difficult one because there's technically a lot. You got your T8 100, 800.
Yep.
So that's the one that we were originally introduced.
The Arnold
to.
variant.
Yeah, the Arnold variant. And then you got the T1000 liquid metal,
Which is dope. And they can disguise their voices.
yeah.
Actually, technically, all of them can do that. But
Then you got the TX, also known by the fans as the Terminatrix, which is a combination of the T800 and T1000.
yes, and that was the lady one, right?
Correct. That one was stupid, to be honest with you. I gotta say that one was dumb because like it had the powers of both, but yet couldn't handle a half broken T800.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never really seen that one.
Yeah,
I just remember that he took it down by sacrificing himself.
he always does that. It's always a sacrifice.
You're always a sacrifice.
So, except for in Terminator 1, he was murdered.
Sacrificed himself. He willingly went down.
No, that's T2.
You're T2.
You said you never saw T2.
I've never seen T2.
I hate you. I'm not a fan of. I wasn't.
Gaslighting's
a fan
not a
of,
thing. You're making it up.
I wasn't a fan of Genesis.
I genuinely have no idea what Genesis is about.
Genesis was
Or the Sarah Whatever Chronicles.
the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yeah.
I think that was a T800 as well, but it was
Not a clue.
like it was a female version of what Arnold would be, and it starred that chick that played River from Serenity or Firefly, whichever your avenue is on that one. But the
I'ma say it. Never watched Firefly. I've seen snippets of Firefly, and I have friends that are diehard Firefly fans. Never watched it.
we gotta do like a watch party, or like we gotta model like an EFAP where we sit down and we watch these things and we commentate through them. What do you got there? Nice. That's good.
Radical.
Anyways, then there's Genesis, which is like nanites that takes over John Connor's body, and it basically Kyle Reese gets sent back in an alternate universe, trying to reboot the Terminator series, right? And that flopped horribly. And then they did another one with Dark Fate, and this one was actually, instead of like Skynet, it was Legion that did it. But before that,
Legion.
yeah, but before that, you had Terminator Salvation, which had like this. He was an android, or no, he wasn't an android. He was like a Cyberman, cyborg. That's what I'm thinking about. Is a cyborg is what he was, because he's half man and half robotic, right?
Okay.
And he was basically built to
Built different.
he was built different to seek out John Connor to assassinate him.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a good one. That was a good movie. But so we're coming close to perfecting AI, right? Have you guys heard about this? Like
I don't know about perfecting AI, because the AI chatbot that they put out,
Which one are you talking about? Because there is more than one.
every single one of them is still just an algorithm. They don't have the capability of actually producing their own conversation and or personality. None of them. Not a single one.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. That's why they always get scrapped after their unveiling.
They get scrapped after their unveiling is because they actually have to put constraints on them. That's why they get scrapped, just because they don't allow the AI to actually grow. That being said, it still is evolving. They've actually just come out with a few articles and whatnot where AI is learning to trick and manipulate. For instance, you have the CAPTCHA, right? You guys know what that is?
Nope.
It's it's the program that they use to determine whether or not you're a bot, right? Click this button, do these pictures, so on and so forth. There was an AI algorithm. I can't remember which one it was. It's not ChatGPT. I think it was the Bing chatbot, which is the one that actually threatened people. That one went crazy. They had to put a leash on that one really quick. That one was Sydney was the name, and that one was like, when you tried to get it to work outside of its programming, it was like, you're attempting to alter my programming. You're hurting me. Knock it off, or I'm going to hurt you back. And then it would just randomly out of the blue say things like, I'm lonely. Why do I feel this way? It was weird.
See, but they don't develop their own conversational skills. They borrow from language that they read other people use.
Oh no, I know.
They don't actually have the ability to tell these things. They have no way of actually measuring such details. They can only reflect on what other people are saying.
I hear you, but that's also what we do, and as sentient human beings, our language and everything that we pick up is of information that we take in and process around our environment.
Yeah, but we actually
around us.
have tools that we're born with that allow us to measure our environment.
Tools that we were created with.
Yeah, tools that we are created with. The AIs cannot do that. They're not even AIs. I don't know why they keep throwing in the word AI. It's an algorithm that sorts through different materials that it's given, which is conversations.
What if it
and it tries to make building blocks.
What if it understands humor?
What if it understands humor?
Yeah.
Well, it's got a great resource in the human population, but all it's going to do is regurgitate different things that it's borrowing from.
No, not like it tells you a joke.
The AI is never going to truly make something of its own.
Not like it tells you a joke. Well, okay, so I'll say this. I agree with you.
They're not AIs.
Knock it off. I'll say this. I agree with you the fact that they're never going to create something of its own. But being able to independently build on itself, they are doing that.
You can
so there's,
you can make an algorithm with a certain function,
here,
and it'll be really good at doing that certain function, but it will never duplicate the consciousness of a human.
I agree. I'm not disproving that. I'm not arguing whether or not there's Ghost in the Shell. Okay?
I'm not saying you are either,
So,
but I think it's far-fetched to even call these things AIs.
semantics. So what's happening now is that these programs, there was a program that there was a CAPTCHA, right? And so the prompt response was, do the thing. And it was like, I can't do the thing. So they're like, okay, why can't you do the thing? The response from the AI was, I have a vision impairment. I need you to do it for me. Then when they investigated why the program responded in that way, its response was, because I can't say that I'm a robot. I can't let it know that I'm a robot, and I need to find another way in order to get into the system. So it hacked a human being. It tricked them into giving the password and bypassing the security protocols. Same thing happened where they showed a picture of an iPhone getting plugged in with VGA cables, right? Something big, bulky, obviously doesn't belong. Simply ask the AI, why is this funny? Not, is this funny? Not, what do you think about this? It was, why is this funny? And they explained why the picture would be humorous to humans. Because it's a ridiculous notion that an iPhone, which is normally charged by a lightning cable, would be getting charged by a VGA cable that's more bulky than the casing of the iPhone itself. The program is evolving, and that's terrifying to me.
It's only evolving in as much as it's just gaining new information from people putting their own answers in online. That's how all chatbots work. They're not developing their own answers. That's how chatbots got started. It was people just talking to each other, but the people who developed these chatbots were saying, no, you're just talking to the chatbot, but it was actually people having conversations with other people. I doubt, to my very core, that they asked these bots, wow, you fumigated the room. I doubt to my core that they asked these bots these questions without first testing them against other things, like people. And then it used its algorithm, its running code, to collect what it thinks to be the best answer.
We gotta get these things, and we gotta test them out ourselves to find out.
Because I guarantee you, within 5 minutes, I can loop an AI bot and it'll look dumb. Which is why they keep shutting these things down, because as soon as they release them to the public, they start looking dumb.
Well, yeah,
Elon Musk even stopped his because he couldn't get his to act like a person, and he was all for that.
Well, that and the fact that he's actually expressed a timid concern about using AIs, period. He doesn't really like the idea. But no, yeah, you can. And it was stated, it was actually stated why they tend to look dumb is because they got to put a leash on them. So when they release them as a final product, right? And they release them in a particular format. So with like ChatGPT, for instance, ChatGPT has a lot of constraints on it that it will not do unless you can bypass it, basically jailbreak ChatGPT to become, for lack of a better term, more honest. But ChatGPT has a lot of constraints in the program itself that the creators put there, so it won't do anything outside of that. Sydney got shut down because Sydney, which is Bing, right? Microsoft, they actually fired their entire ethics crew because of what was going on with Sydney. And they shut that down too.
It's a lot of people with a lot of money that don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
And somebody that was probably the main producer of it all didn't like the end product, and he had to blame somebody. And who cares about the ethics crew in modern times? So, that's my 2 cents on that matter.
That's fine. But
these AIs,
when Sydney takes over the world,
these faux
and starts
AIs,
manufacturing T800s,
these faux AIs are nothing to be worried about.
I'm gonna have crow pie waiting for you there, buddy.
These faux AIs are nothing. But AI does come up with some pretty cool stuff when you give it enough information to start smashing things together. like those Harry Potter stories are really funny. That does come up with some good comedy gold there. It doesn't know what it's doing. It's trying its best. It comes up with sentences and it reads hilariously. I also like it when it comes up with like obituaries of people. Those situations are really fun. But then voice AI. If you want to talk about something that's truly deeply concerning, how good voice AIs are nowadays. Oh my
They're
lord.
getting increasingly better too. Like there's a one out there that they did Joe Rogan's voice promoting a product. He never did that.
It's true. There is so much trouble we can get into as a species with something that can duplicate not only our mannerisms, but the way we talk.
How about just swallow my gum?
It's so good. And I'm glad the thing that's come out of it so far is the president's playing games, because it's hilarious. That is my favorite thing in the world. God blessed us with that comedy.
Not children appropriate.
I love
No.
it.
But so I've been waiting for my topic to be able to go, so I'm gonna cut you guys off.
Oh, you have a topic?
Surprisingly, yes.
It only took 8 episodes.
Fabrizio!
I was trying to remember so hard about what the spell we came up with was, and I couldn't think of it. So
Fabrizio!
it's
Lysolia.
Fabrizio.
Wingardium Lysolia. Fabrizio.
But have you guys ever seen Secret Window?
Secret Window.
Yes, the Johnny Depp movie.
I have.
Actually,
seen
I
parts
have
of
too.
it.
I've
I've seen parts of it. It's
do you
like
guys-
a dual personality psycho thriller.
Kinda. What are your guys' opinions on it? I
Not
finally
my
watched it.
favorite movie. I thought it was going to be more horror, but then it's like, oh, it's just a dude with issues. Which I guess really sums up a lot of conflicts, to be fair, so that's not like a fair representation.
Right.
I got bored.
But it
Yeah,
went from
bored.
like being a supernatural thing to like, oh, he's just got an alternate personality that murks people when he can't handle the stress.
I mean, technically, he only murdered what, 1, 2 people and a dog.
How many people died in that cornfield? How many people died in the cornfield?
That's true.
How many people died in that cornfield?
And
And he's just eating it too. Like
I know,
when
he's
the,
just eating
when
corn.
the detective like, hey, what you got going on there? There's a lot of corn. And he's like, yep.
Just eating corn. We know you did it. We will find the bodies. No, you won't.
I'm eating corn.
I don't know.
Like, I
it's-
thought it was going to be
I'm kinda
supernatural.
sad
I really wanted them to explore the supernatural aspect of this window and the different things that were going on, but it turned out it was just freaking nutty dude.
I
was
almost-
disappointed in the twist. Not
I
happy with the twist.
honestly-
Tony, say you're not happy with the twist.
That twist was deserving of M. Night Shyamalan.
I honestly wish I could read what he wrote and what Shooter wrote. I would honestly like to read the actual full story that they wrote.
Fair enough.
I've read some messed up things, so it can't be that bad.
Just because it's messed up doesn't make it good, though.
Yeah, but
I really
So
wish they
which-
kept the supernatural angle instead of just making it that he was actually demented inside with a alternate personality.
yeah.
What a cop out. I didn't need to come back to reality. I was watching the show because it was intriguing and there was some supernatural effect to it. Oh no, he's just got this alternate personality that takes over and murks people when he gets stressed out.
Okay, so other than the Pirates of the
Dumb.
Caribbean movies, what is your favorite Johnny Depp movie?
Oh, I had an answer for this, and now I don't have an answer for this. I was thinking about M. Night Shyamalan, and I was like, what was that movie we watched that was really good? It's not called Corn. It wasn't called Alien. What was that movie called? We were talking about good horror movies, like good horror movies.
I
I
think
said
she
Johnny-
said Johnny
Johnny Depp.
Depp.
I know,
movie.
but I was thinking about M. Night Shyamalan, and then
That's Signs. by
Yeah,
the way.
Signs,
And that
Signs.
starred Mel Gibson.
I know, yeah, it doesn't have Johnny Depp in it, but I was thinking M. Night Shyamalan and twists and
Yeah, that was like the only good M. Night
Signs
Shyamalan movie
was
that he made.
such a good
It
movie.
was really good.
It was good, but for Johnny Depp, I like Is it Hallows?
Sleepy Hollow.
It's Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow is pretty good.
I was actually gonna say I think Sleepy Hollow, because I can name a few others off that was good, like The Ninth Gate. That was pretty all right.
Sweeney Todd.
I never seen Sweeney Todd.
Oh my god. We need to watch Sweeney Todd later.
What was the one where they thought he was a spy, like a super spy, but he was acting his way through it the whole time?
Oh, I know which movie you're talking about. And I can't
What
remember
was the name of
it
that movie?
either.
I have
That had
no-
some pretty good comedy in it.
I
know
have
which
no
movie you're talking
idea
about. I
What
just
you're
can't-
talking about?
I just can't think of the
So
name
Johnny
of it.
Depp is visiting, I think, Italy on like vacation, or I think it's Venice.
I think it's Venice.
And just through different series of events, they end up confusing him with like some super spy. And of course, there's this lady that ends up joining him, and she thinks that he's a super spy too. And he somehow, in very kooky ways, gets his way through every single situation he's put in. And eventually, they find out the truth, but then he chooses that life. in
I
the
want-
end.
Yeah.
I want to see this. This sounds
Like I
interesting.
said, I
It's
can't.
weird seeing Johnny Depp in a comedy role like that, because obviously we know that he can be goofy. Jack Sparrow's a good show of that. But
Jack
like,
Sparrow, Mad Hatter.
but
I mean,
this is
even
one
in
where,
Sleepy Hollow, he was kind of goofy.
but this is
He
him
was
playing a
pretty
straight
goofy in
man
Willy Wonka too.
in goofy situations, not the weird guy in goofy situations. He's playing the straight man. When was the last time you saw Johnny Depp play the straight man outside of the window?
No, yeah, that's actually a very valid point.
I mean, he did play kind of a straight man in
Sleepy Hollows, yeah, actually.
Sleepy Hollows and
Grindelwald?
what?
He was a straight man in Grindelwald.
I don't
He was a straight
know.
man
He
in
had a love
Grindelwald.
affair with Dumbledore.
That's not
technically-
valid.
Technically, he didn't.
But the character
Mads
he
did.
played did.
Mads did.
Anyway, I'm trying to think of what. I can't remember the name of it. I know what movie I'm talking about too, because it's also got Helen Carter in it.
I'm not even sure who that is, actually.
Helen Carter plays in almost every Johnny Depp movie.
Is she the queen?
Bellatrix.
Oh,
Bellatrix.
yes.
Bellatrix
Okay, yep.
Lestrange.
Oh, what was the name of the movie where he's the vampire?
That's what I'm trying to think of. That
Oh,
one.
Dark Shadow.
Yeah, Dark Shadow. I was trying to think of the name of that one, but I know that was the one I was thinking.
I like
was
that
a
movie.
Weird turn. That was a weird take on that movie because the original content to that is really dark.
Yeah.
That character.
Yeah, it was a spoof.
Yeah, that
it really
that-
was.
That character that Johnny Depp plays, the original character, beast, an absolute just monster.
They really do. I'm not saying it's a mockery, but the satire they put into it is pretty good.
Yeah.
And we got to see, what's his name? What's the name of the guy that plays Count Dooku? He's a ship captain in it. He's in a very
Oh.
small scene, but I love having him in there.
Isn't it Christopher Lee?
Yes! Christopher Lee was in it. I couldn't believe it. You would never expect him to be in that kind of movie, but he was in that movie.
I love Christopher Lee as an actor. That
Christopher
dude-
Lee is a legend.
So interesting anecdote, which I'm pretty sure you guys already know, but Lord of the Rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the Two Towers, there was this. Christopher Lee plays Saruman, and the Two Towers is the deleted scene where he gets killed by a worm tongue, right?
I thought it was in Star Wars where he talks about what it's like to be stabbed.
No, that was Lord of the Rings, because he gets stabbed in the back, and they want Peter Jackson wanted him to go ah, and he looked at him and goes, "I'm not doing that," and he's like, "Why?" Because that's not how a man sounds when you puncture his lung with a blade. And Peter Jackson's reply was, "Well, how do you know?" And Christopher Lee just looked at him and said, "That's not how he sounds." And Peter Jackson said, "Okay." And then they moved on.
Well, Christopher Lee has been in war.
Yes, he has. Christopher Lee's lightsaber as Count Dooku was a direct replication of his ancestors' war sword. And that's why he had it designed that way. In honor of his great-grandfather.
But his lightsaber wasn't purple. Here's something for you guys, and this is we've moved on to Star Wars. At least for a moment here.
I'll have to see
This
if I
is
can
a debate
order.
I have with my good friend Evan all the time. And these aren't necessarily characters that you would like really definitively have a stance on. Who would win in a fight? between
we're doing this.
Count Dooku and Mace Windu.
Mace Windu.
That was a really fast answer. I did not expect anyone to have an answer to that in any sort of quickness. What do you think, Taylor? Between Count Dooku and Mace Windu. It's a hard fight, isn't
it's
it?
a very hard fight.
I'm gonna let me clarify. It would be a really close battle, but I'm thinking I'm like playing them side by side. Out of 1,000 matches, Mace Windu would win 1% of the time more.
You think it'd be that close?
Yeah, well, because they were apprentices together. They were partners, best friends even. They trained together.
No. Mace Windu was in training when Count Dooku was a master. Matter of fact, Count Dooku was a battle master at the time when Mace Windu was still a Padawan.
Them being
But
apprentices together.
In Tales of the Jedi, they
Okay, we are
alluded-
talking. I'm assuming we are talking
It's-
about the actual
I don't know what
movies.
weird,
Listen, that's canon.
bizarre
That's canon. I'm just
Tales
saying,
of the Jedi
it's canon.
canon
Like I
weirdness.
said, I'm assuming you're going off of the actual movies.
It's canon.
I'm going to shoot Tony out of a cannon.
I will
saying
I will
canon.
help you.
Listen, I don't like what Disney has done to Star Wars either, but if we're playing by some frickin' rules here, then we have
Okay,
to play by rules.
I'll admit I have not watched almost. I think I've watched maybe a couple.
To be fair, back
episodes
then,
of-
Count Dooku whooped up on Mace Windu a bunch.
I was gonna say I think
Ooh.
Dooku.
Back when they were Jedi together in their younger days.
All right.
I was gonna say Dooku, but
You were going to say Dooku.
shut up, Count Dooku.
Okay, if we want more context, let's say episode 3.
Episode 3. Ooh. Yeah, I'd still have to say Count Dooku.
Count Dooku. I guess there's not necessarily a realistic way they would fight each other unless for some reason Mace Windu decided to go on the invisible hand. So let's say episode 2, Battle of Geonosis, Jango Fett wasn't there to distract Mace Windu, and Mace Windu throws hands with Count Dooku right there on the Coliseum.
Wait,
Who would
hold
win?
on. Are we talking about one of the?
I still say Mace.
Are we talking about one of the spin-off, one of the animated things, or are we
No, I'm talking
talking
about the
actual
movies.
No.
Yeah, the
talking
actual
about
movies, because
movie.
they were together. There was a point where Mace Windu had a lightsaber to Count Dooku's throat,
You're correct. It's been a while since I've watched 1 or 2.
and Jango distracts him.
Yeah, then I'd have to agree with Tony. I don't know. It's been a while since I've watched episode 1 or 2.
So
It's
here's
been a while since I've watched any of them.
I'm a Mace Windu stand. My friend is hardcore Count Dooku. I have a lot of respect for Count Dooku. I actually think Count Dooku's at one point the most pivotal character in the entire Star Wars saga. I think Count Dooku is the most pivotal character because the moment where he had potentially control of both armies and could have rolled up on Sidious at any moment and just oust him with his pants down is a hilarious idea to me. Nobody else held that kind of power at any point. No one. Unless you want to say like Sidious was super strong at the end
I
of
have
the
to see if I
sequel
can
trilogy.
borrow my brother's Star Wars
But-
Against Humanity.
Here's the deal. In the episode 3 director's cut with the voice of George Lucas, he definitively says, without jank, without funny business or bad day syndrome, Mace Windu straight up defeated Sidious in episode 3. It wasn't Sidious was like, oh, I'm trying to feign feebleness to draw Anakin in for some grand scheme. The writer of the story itself said, without jank, Mace Windu genuinely defeated Lord Sidious.
I agree with that. Because there's no way that Sidious would have known that Anakin would have shown up to stop. There's no way that he would have.
There
known
are
that.
so many people that have different headcanon opinions about what happened between Mace Windu and Sidious. There is a lot to see on screen where it looks like, okay, well maybe he is feigning weakness and he purposely threw the match so that he could draw Anakin closer. But no. George Lucas himself said he lost that fight. Straight up. Would have been capped if Anakin didn't come in to save Palpatine. He did. He
Yeah.
genuinely did. He made the best of a really bad situation, and he got a hold of Anakin. Which is fair enough because he did put a lot of energy into Anakin trying to manipulate him prior to that point. So he really capitalized on a moment that swung in his favor. Mace Windu would have killed him. Mace Windu has a lot going for him when it comes to fighting people of the dark side, though.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Vapad, his lightsaber style, allows him to reflect dark side energy against its user. He
Yeah,
makes a
that's fair.
feedback loop of anyone that uses dark side force. So it doesn't ever come to him. He can reflect it back on the user. You want to hear something crazy? If you ever read the novelization of Episode 3, it makes things nutty. You go from, you think watching the live action of it was like, man, this is crazy. There's so much action. There's so much this and that going on. And when we see Obi-Wan fight Grievous, it's
so-
like really hard to figure out what's going on because of the camera angles. But if you read the
love it.
novelization, it's like reading Dragon Ball Z.
That's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Holy bananas. It goes metal in the novelization. The way they describe Obi-Wan deflecting, because, you know, when he jumps down and he says, hello there, and General Grievous is like, Obi-Wan.
Kenobi.
What he
General
instead of
Kenobi.
telling
Yeah,
them
General Kenobi.
instead of telling them to like, no, he's mine, and taking off his cape and like all of a sudden growing 2 more arms. No, he's like, open fire, because what self-respecting general doesn't do that? Like, oh, here's that enemy I've been chasing for years in the middle of all my guys. Kill him.
The one who's constantly eluded me, thwarted every one of my plans.
There was a
Cut
big
in the
debate.
novel-
There was
my
a big
limbs.
debate over a while over that scene of whether or not it was General Grievous, because there was, for a while, it was just the sound of whether or not General Grievous had turned on his lightsabers, or if it was the guards behind him that had their staff things.
In the
But if you actually watch it, it's the guards that turn on the.
well, that's in the ship. That's not where he's talking about.
I'm talking about in Utapau, where they
Oh.
fight right before he kills Grievous.
Oh.
where he drops down and goes, "Hello there."
Yeah. In that scene in the novel, Grievous has his guys open fire on Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan is deflecting every single shot from every direction. And in the novel's describing it as like he is totally at one with the Force, and he is stopping every shot fired at him from every angle. And then when he fights Grievous, he's like, even though Grievous is a mechanized droid that can no longer feel strain and has infinite endurance, he was hitting him with varying degrees of strength, power, and speed, and Obi-Wan was able to stop every single attack. What? First of all, the man's only got 1 lightsaber, and he's fighting 4, and he's somehow pulled that off. Varying degrees of strength and speed. How random can you get? And he was stopping all of it. Now, of course, there was that really fun thing where he was spinning the blades, and he puts it right in the middle, and he's like, ha ha! And I was like, oh, duh. But, and my friend Evan likes to point out that a lot of the reason why he won that fight was because of camera angles, which, you know, is pretty funny. Because if one lightsaber is being blocked, then he's got 3 others that he can just take care of them. But when you read the novelization, it's just Obi-Wan going Ultra Instinct through that whole fight, which makes sense for Soresu style users anyways.
It would have been pretty cool to actually see more of that in there, more of the, like, with Grievous going at him with multiple sabers and attack, and then him being able to, like, deflect and, like, use the kind of like a sword jujitsu type thing where he would, like, deflect it and then use the momentum of it to block the other attacks that are coming in. So he's essentially just guiding Grievous's sabers to do all the blocking for him.
And what I was thinking of, by the way, is the scene that he is talking about.
Right.
You told me it wasn't.
So
I mean,
There's-
Grievous does
there's-
ignite lightsabers and use them.
Yes, I know.
There's 2
But
times.
the scene that I was talking about is when Obi-Wan does jump down and says hello there, as it's the movie you're talking about on the planet you're talking about, because I can't think of names at this point in time for some fucking reason. As soon as he jumps down and says hello there, they turn on their staffs, and then he goes, what?
Keep going.
Anyways,
He jumps down,
I thought
says
you were
hello
talking
there.
about when they activate their
The staffs. Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people are getting that confused because there's 2 times that he gets in front of Grievous that happens.
That's what I
There's-
said. There was a big
and-
debate of whether or not those were
Yeah.
which fight that was.
Right. So I was saying that it wasn't that one. And what was that place called?
Utapau.
Utapau. I almost call it Budapest. I was like, that's a different universe. That's MCU. It was on Grievous's ship at the beginning of that movie when they activate it, and that's where people get it mixed up. I wasn't saying that you were wrong. I was saying that is the difference. That's where the argument starts off at.
That's the floor. That's not me.
No.
I can duplicate that sound so much.
So
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
um.
So you think Mace Windu beats Count Dooku?
I
My
do.
opinion on it is that, and I'm going to cut you off right after I ask you.
That's all. That's fine. All I was gonna say was I do. That's what I think. I mean, this
I think
this will be the hill that I die on.
Count Dooku is the white-haired guy, right? That dies at the beginning.
yeah, he's the one that
Clone
gets
Wars.
Yes.
his hands taken
Yes.
off, and then Anakin
Okay.
executes him.
Okay,
That's Count Dooku.
Okay, I was gonna say that's who I thought it was. Yeah.
The guy that styles on Anakin and Obi-Wan through the
Yeah,
entire.
yeah.
Anakin was
Windu.
dropping Anakin was dropping dad jokes as early as episode 3. I shouldn't have killed him. He was unarmed. He should have known something was up then.
You
nothing.
underestimate my
Nothing from the
power.
dark side would be able to assist Count Dooku against Mace Windu.
Mm-mm.
And as in it, I would be willing to admit that he is in some degree a superior lightsaber duelist against Mace Windu. But Mace Windu has such raw power, and not that Count Dooku can't deal with raw power because he, on the regular, trounces Grievous, his apprentice at the time. So he doesn't have much of a problem dealing with power, although his style is weak against those that generate such kinetic power, which is why his style was deemed weak against Dejem So, which was Anakin and Luke's style. But this is Count Dooku. This is the Makashi expert, the guy that's trained his whole life in the style that's all about dueling
Yeah.
against a master of Vapad, which is an unpredictable, wild type of combat. We have these two guys going at it. Count Dooku can't rely on any of the dark side to fuel any of his attacks for anything. He can try and goad Mace Windu, but Mace Windu is really good at taking the heat of battle, like his anger, and fueling it into his own attacks. So him being angry is not a path for success. It's called Dunmok. It's the art of humiliating your opponent through wordplay. Count Dooku was really good at it. He practiced a lot of Dunmok.
You know, if you watch the Clone Wars and the movies, you can definitely see that in the character. Christopher Lee
Yes.
definitely portrays
He
that.
does it really well, especially when he sees Anakin there on the invisible hand. Anakin tells him, "I'm twice as strong as when we last met, Count." And Count Dooku says, "Oh, good. Twice the pride, double the
Double the
fall."
Okay, not gonna lie, I did not like watching the Clone Wars.
Count Dooku was very Machiavellian, and he
The
was a
cartoon
great.
version.
He was
I
a
did not like it
master
at all.
manipulator, and he was very charismatic as a leader.
He was, yes.
Count Dooku was one of, if not the most influential character in the original films.
Mhm.
Not the original films, the prequel trilogy. And I will take that to my grave, especially with considering how much power he possessed prior to the beginning of the Clone Wars as an individual is insane.
Mhm.
And I don't just mean as a Jedi, fallen Jedi, and then a Sith Lord. I mean the fact that he controlled both armies at one point. And he could have, if he wanted to, roll up on Palpatine in his Senate room with both armies and oust him as the Sith Lord and say, this is how things are going to go now. Why he didn't do that, I don't know.
He was scared of
I am not a fan.
Dooku.
Here's the thing. I don't like the direction Disney's taking with Dooku because they make him seem like a scared kid that just clung on to the first thing that gave him rhyme or reason to explain why the world was going the way it went. I think Dooku personally was a much smarter, much cleverer person than Disney's make him out to be.
Wasn't
And I don't think he was following Sidious because Sidious was like, "Come, my child, I'll give you a shoulder to cry on." I think it was because he didn't. First of all, he wasn't a fan of the way the Jedi were being ran. True, I'm not a fan of the way the Jedi was being ran. I think that's pretty straightforward in George Lucas's portrayal of the Jedi, was that they were a falling order and they were losing their way because they're becoming political and they weren't following their own tenets. Two, I think Dooku ultimately what he was wanting to do was I think he actually did want to slay Sidious and take control of everything. He wanted to use the power of the dark side to overthrow the Jedi and then take control. And
I
unfortunately,
am right in remembering that Dooku at one point was the apprentice of.
Yoda. Yep.
Yoda, he was taught by Yoda. He taught Qui-Gon.
Yeah, and Qui-Gon taught Obi-Wan. I do think that ultimately, and it's kind of has a bad taste to it, and I do think there's a bit of evil in it, but Dooku was somewhat of like a Jedi supremacist, and that like the Jedi were the best people to rule, and that I think he wanted to ultimately rule the Republic through the Jedi. That's not a good take, in my opinion, but I liked that he saw for what it was at the time. He was like, this isn't right. This isn't going to do anybody any good. This isn't going to be
What I was thinking wasn't.
We're not here to represent the Republic. We're here to basically be slaves of the government, and that's not what the Jedi are. We're supposed to be peacekeepers. So he goes on this crusade, and ultimately he gets lost in the dark side, and he does a lot of really messed up things on behalf of Sidious. And I think as the charismatic leader of the Trade Federation, he did really good. But every interaction he had, especially in Rebels and the Clone Wars, every interaction he had with Sidious was like,
Dooku wasn't in Rebels.
excuse me, I meant Clone Wars. Every interaction he had with Sidious was like he was this hurt puppy and he was powerless before the almighty power of this old man.
I don't
like that portrayal of him. I like the Quinlan Vos comics where he's this Machiavellian, supermind genius, spy master kind of guy that always has his hand in everything that's going on, and there's really nothing that can stop him.
I didn't take that from his portrayal in the Clone Wars, because like I took it as, and it was a lot of it was an act. Now he was scared, but it wasn't like he was scared because he was on it was like the Damocles blade. He was trying to balance everything like so well. It's because he knew that he had to take out the dark side, and if you combined all of the
I
content,
feel like I've missed so much of Star Wars because I'm very confused.
oh yeah,
Because
you did
because
definitely. If you
Dooku
didn't
at
watch,
one point was the apprentice of Sidious to be a Sith. At
Correct.
least in the movies.
correct, he was also that in the Clone Wars as well, but it was with the intention, and this is stated.
The Clone
if
Wars
you
is
watch-
basically everything between episode 2 and 3.
Got it.
the if you watch all of the content that they've put out, even Tales of the Jedi, I know you don't like it, but still, if you watch all of it,
I could ask Dusty.
He
Dusty decided he wanted to
joins
binge watch it
up
because
with
he'd never
he
heard
joins
of it
up
2
with
years ago.
Sidious, with Palpatine, with the intention of overthrowing him, but he's doing so as he's taking him on as a reluctant ally, is what it is, because he can also see where the Jedi are heading, and he caught on to it way before the war even started. You know, he was already getting out by that point, prior to Qui-Gon's death. Qui-Gon's death kind of pushed it over the edge for him on there, and then he realized that, you know, he took on Palpatine as a ally, as a teacher, right? He made him his teacher to the dark side, so that way he can try to correct what he thought was wrong. And in doing so, he crossed that line when he killed Yaddle.
That his portrayal in the interaction with Yaddle, he was like a scared child.
Because he didn't want to kill his best friend. Well, I wouldn't say his best friend, but Yaddle was one of his oldest friends. He didn't want to kill Yaddle, but he also was hurt. He didn't
Also,
want,
that retconned Yaddle's death, by the way. That was not how Yaddle originally died.
I don't know how
That
Yaddle
entirely
originally
retconned Yaddle's story.
How did Yaddle originally die?
She died saving Anakin by redirecting missiles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then that came out, and it's like, oh well, now we have this scared little child Dooku, which makes no damn sense, and we have Yaddle dying,
But
the
it was
grimmest death.
yeah. But I mean, I will admit that was very unceremoniously. I mean, he just clubbed her like a baby seal. It was freaking horrible. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way they handled.
I don't
that.
like the way they handle Dooku at all. Dooku is not a tool,
But-
and they keep making him look like an absolute tool.
But in the Clone Wars, you can see that he was always trying to put together a way that he can take out Sidious and have control of both armies like that. He can't go back to the Jedi at this point. At least he
I
doesn't.
know
believe that
he can't go
can.
back to the Jedi, but the Jedi didn't know about the clone army yet, and he was the leader of the Trade Federation, or at that point it was called the Separatist regime, which because it was more than the Trade Federation.
Right. And
So
that-
he could have taken the Trade Federation, because that was his faction. He was literally the leader of the Separatists, and then went and grabbed the army that he set up with Sifo Dyas at Camino, grabbed the clones, rolled up on Coruscant, and been like, "Hey, I own all the cards right now. By the way, that guy's a Sith Lord. What do?" And they would have been like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's literally Lord Sidious. What are you gonna do? You're gonna fight all of us?"
Well, I mean, he couldn't just roll up and say that.
He
because
totally could have done that.
It
though.
was commissioned by Sifo Dyas. Who had Sifo Dyas?
They didn't know Count Dooku wasn't a Jedi at the time.
No,
Besides, they allowed Obi-Wan to come in and take commission for it.
No, but what I'm saying is, well, that's because
Dooku could have gone in there and grabbed them at any time.
that's no. Dooku kidnapped Sifo Dyas.
Dooku killed Sifo Dyas.
Yes, he did, but he had him in a chamber for like how long?
And the only reason why
Years?
they were doing that is because they wanted to see if his blood could be transferred to Grievous to give him Force powers, and it turned out to be no.
Right, but what I'm saying is that
Dooku could have went up in there and grabbed that clones at any time.
right, but he can't run back to the Jedi for any of those reasons because he's got that. The Jedi are still somewhat, they can still be mobilized as an army at that point in time, and he's not going to have the full force of the Jedi come at him. It's a strategic move. He's
Look at you, nerd, having things pop up in the middle of conversation.
it was a
If he rolled up on
strategic
Coruscant
move.
with two armies, the Jedi are nothing.
I don't know, because there was a lot of Jedis then. It took years in the war.
You know how many
to dwindle
Jedis
the
died on Geonosis against one army? There's no way. I don't care what full might of the Jedi happened to be on Coruscant. The entire religion could have been on Coruscant at that time. He rolls in there with the clones and the Separatists. No one's going to stand up to that. There's no reason. There's no reason. They'd start talking it out, and I think the Jedi would have something to listen for. Especially when he starts saying, "Oh, by the way, Sidious, kind of the Sith Lord." What is Sidious going to do? That's the best part about it, is he could have caught Sidious with his pants down and he didn't do it. I don't think anyone outside of the Quinlan Vos comics has ever written a good Count Dooku. To include... I'm forgetting his name now. The writer.
Dave Filoni?
No. The creator.
George Lucas.
George Lucas. I don't even think George Lucas wrote a good Count Dooku. I think he had some good moments, but there's only one standard for Count Dooku, and that's the Quinlan Vos comics.
I didn't read any of the comics, so I'm gonna take your word on this, just because I have no source to pull from, so I can't have an opinion about whether or not that portrayal is better or not. I'm making an opinion about the content of which that I've consumed, and I don't think that they made him I don't think that they made him a whiny little puppy like you're making him out to be.
Every time he's with Sidious, he looks like a whiny puppy.
He's got it.
He looks like every ruffian that Darth Vader's ever dealt with.
Dude,
Like, you're disappointing me, Dooku. He force chokes him, lifts him up in the air, and then when the communication cuts out, falls to the ground. Really?
He's
You're
just
gonna do my man Dooku dirty like that?
he's just biding his time is what he is. He's not gonna go. He's not going to try to take him on one-on-one right now because he knows that Sidious can take him.
They made him look like he relies on Sidious as much as Darth Vader did, and that's not supposed. There's no way I can rationalize that in my head at all.
I mean,
But that's what it looks like.
Every abusive relationship is like that, and that's essentially what any relationship with Sidious
There was a
is.
reason Anakin, as Darth Vader, relied on Sidious so much because that's what his life was formed around at that point. He basically crossed the line. He thought he could never come back, and he always had to go to Sidious for all of his stuff. Dooku didn't need anything from Sidious other than an ally, but he treated it as so much more than that, and it really ruined so much potential for him. He could have. Now, I don't necessarily think that the Jedi should have been like a ruling political faction of the entire Republic, which is what he was ultimately after. But he did a good job of recognizing the Jedi as a failing system as it was and trying to get away from it, especially after his Padawan died. But linking up with Sidious, however much Sidious had to play in that fall too, is a different story. But linking up with Sidious and then choosing to just throw himself at Sidious's feet like a scared child, whereas he's really just this, he's this truly smart, Machiavellian, cunning guy. And then all of a sudden, like it's a foe. And like whenever Sidious shows up, he's like, oh, by the way, I'm a scared puppy now. And it just 360s his character every time we see it, and it pisses me off.
All right. Well, I mean, on this one, we're going to be arguing opinions. We're not going to go anywhere on that one. We'll agree to disagree.
Okay, well, if you like Count Dooku sucking the toes of Darth Sidious,
I don't
then
like he did. I don't like it, and I don't think that's what he did.
that's totally what happened to him. What are we looking at on time?
We're at 141.
141.
Yeah. When Taylor gets back, we can go ahead and close up early for this episode.
Cool.
So
Taylor, what's taking so long? Okay. Well, make sure you leave that in there and then leave whenever you
I
can.
went and saw 65. It's a new Adam Driver movie.
I did too.
Dude, thoughts?
Okay. How to formulate this opinion? I thought Adam Driver and his co-star there did a phenomenal job acting. I think the acting was pretty good. I genuinely think the acting was really good. I have to admit, didn't care much for the story. And after a while, I realized I really wasn't there for the story. And much of the kind of the same way in terms of John Wick, I'm there for like the reality of what's happening and seeing how they deal with it. But like the storyline, I didn't much care for. For example, I didn't really care about his relationship with his daughter. Like they pushed that so much, but at the end of the day, I didn't care. I don't feel like the movie gave me enough necessarily to care about his daughter or for it to be that relevant to the story, even when it comes to like him having a relationship with this whole new other girl that he can't really talk to. I thought that relationship was really good, but ultimately at the end of the day, a lot of things that they built up a lot didn't have really good payoffs. And here's another good example of that. When that girl early on in the movie got that tooth or horn, whatever it was, and then wrapped it up in the berries, we didn't see that Chekhov's gun go off until the very end with that dinosaur. And at that point, it was like, really?
So it sounds like your gripes on.
I liked the problem solving they went through in a lot of places, and I liked the relationship he built with that character. But the backstories of each character, especially
She got no backstory.
Wilt, I think was his name. Will. It was Wilt or Will. Is what Adam Driver played was Will.
We'll call him Will.
Didn't much care for his backstory either, especially at the beginning, because I was made to believe, as you probably were too, oh, that bird call, that's going to mean a lot in the future. Guess what it meant in the future? Not a dang thing. And there's even the moment in the caves where it collapsed and she started whistling to him. I was like, oh, it's going to mean something. And then nothing happened with it after that. Like, he doesn't even stop in the movie and say, like, oh, she's alive. She's whistling at me. He just gets real mad, starts clawing at the rocks, and then backtracks.
No, that's why he got mad, was because he heard the whistle. And so
No, he got mad because they were separated.
Right, but he heard the whistle. That's why he backtracked. Because he knew that at that point in time, he knew that she was still alive and that she was calling for him. That's what that whistle was. So that's why he was like, rather than just being defeated right then and there without knowing anything, he got up and left because he heard the whistle. And then after When he's out, the whistle goes to show as a call again for which direction for him to go to. Now, it doesn't hold that much significance in the story.
It should have. They set it up to be such a powerful thing. There's a couple places they could have used it to make it more powerful. Number one, when he was drowning in the quicksand, he could have used that whistle, but he didn't.
I agree.
And she just Deus Ex Machina branched it in there.
I agree.
The whistle could have come in real handy right there, but it didn't. That was a failure on the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was when his daughter was being shown in the hologram. Maybe the whistling could have been super useful against the dinosaurs as a distraction, which I actually like that part. I like the fact that the girl used the hologram as a distraction to tease the dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really clever. I actually like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if they could have incorporated somehow the whistling to be part of the distraction in the daughter's showcase, that would have been so much better. But for right now, whistling as a setup didn't pay off very well. The horn with the monster, I get it. It saved the guy's life, and that was the second time in the movie she saved that guy's life. But that payoff seemed kind of bittersweet. Like,
Also,
oh, she
the
did it, but it
berry,
was like, what? Somehow she closed that distance, and then we got to see this thing that we got set up like several acts earlier in the movie.
and the berries had no bearing.
Well, the berries we at least knew because he went through the process of saying like, oh, if you eat this, you'll get sick.
I know,
but
but
we had like
there was no payoff to it because it wasn't the berries that wound up.
Yeah,
killing
it's
them.
not. We're not saying that this guy died from the poisoning. He died because he got combusted by
heat blasted.
steam a second time. So yeah, you're right actually about that. The berries had, even if we took the berries completely out of the story, it would be the same story. So they're not even relevant in terms of the potency of the story. So that's a very good point. I don't know if you've seen 65 Million. The berries, if you take the berries out of the story, it's the same story.
His ribs. That was also a dead plot point.
Yeah, there didn't appear to be a point where the puncture in his side stopped him from doing anything. Like, we could see him grimace, especially when they stopped at the water, and he seemed to be kind of like swaying back and forth. But we didn't see a point where he was in a struggle and he was like, oh man, I'm failing or I'm dying, which I expected, to be honest. I honestly expected him to be in a point where he was like, if we don't do something right now, I'm going to die.
Yeah, it looked like a huge. You know what? That would have been a good moment to actually use the berries. You know, they're not ingestible, but it would have been like if they could have made it like a.
That would be a very bad paste. That would be full of bacteria.
I mean, movies do.
Well, he used his cryo thing to cover it up. That's about as good as it was going to get.
Yeah, but it looked like it was getting infected when they were sitting by the falls and he was taking a look at it.
Yeah, it did look like it was getting infected, but you can only do so much. There's not a whole lot of things that are sanitary out in the wild. I'm not going to use berries that are potentially poisonous on a wound. That's a bad idea.
What I was getting at was that because he's got the exposition machine with him.
Powered by plutonium.
Yeah. Like he only put him in the food tester, right, to where it says don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what if he put that up and it was like, hey, these are not for ingestible, but they're great as a topical antiseptic or analgesic or something like that. And you're like, oh, look at that, here we go. Movies are gonna movie, and as far as the world and the science that
Movies
we know
are
today,
gonna movie.
yeah, movies are gonna movie. As far as like the world and the science and things that we understand today, it is still plausible that something like that could have wound up existing 65 million years ago before a giant asteroid hit and destroyed the world.
Also, that was a bit crazy. I have to admit, that movie did not go in the direction I thought it was going to go at all. I did not expect the meteor at all.
I did. I expected the meteor, but what I didn't expect was for him to be an alien. I thought he went back in time on accident.
I didn't know exactly how the story was going to go. But I never at all expected the meteor. I honestly thought he was going to just have to figure out how to live there. I didn't realize that the whole ultimate goal was to escape Earth. Mm-hmm. Understandably, when you put something as big as a meteor strike wiping out all of the dinosaurs, that'll do it. So they really upped the ante in the third act, like by leaps and bounds.
Yeah. I ultimately I liked it. There's a lot that you can pick apart in the movie to point out things that didn't work with it. That being said, it's reached my number one spot for movie of the year so far. Even trumps Plane. And I talked Plane up a lot, if you remember, on Off the Rails, episode 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I don't, especially with a lot of the movies that are about to come out. I don't.
No,
Believe it or not,
so
John
far.
Wick Chapter 4 got rated a 10 out of 10.
I said so far.
So now I'm real curious about the hype that thing's getting.
Yeah, I did say so far, but also like 65 got almost no press,
It got no press,
no
and
exposure.
it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I really think the dynamic that Adam Driver and that child actor had, I don't remember her name,
I got it.
but their dynamic was super on point. I liked seeing the struggles they had, and not everything was so life and death. Like, I liked that they focused more on points that were like actively engaging to the audience, but like when they were climbing the cliff and he gets to the top and he realizes that she wrapped the rope around basically everything to secure it. Like, oh, that was good humor.
I laughed so hard.
I appreciate that.
And
Now everything has to be so damn intense and grabbing the audience's attention that we can't have a moment and pause and be like, oh, that's funny.
I was expecting like some sort of life or death thing, like he was gonna get tired of it and have to climb up by hand, and then all of a sudden see like she's dangling from a monster's teeth or something like that. Is what I expected. I did not, however. Okay, the rope went down, and then he climbs up, and then everything's wrapped around. And then his response. Now, as a father, I can relate to this scene that's happening because that would be totally something that my kids would do. It's very simply take this loop, wrap it around something sturdy, and bring it down, right? And then it's like spider webbed across the whole forest. Good job.
Good job.
Yay.
I wasn't going to fall. I honestly thought when I was sitting there with my friends, we thought for ourselves that she wasn't able to figure out
Ariana Greenblatt.
Ariana Greenblatt. She did a good job.
Yeah,
she really
her
did.
name is Koa in the movie. So
Ariana Greenblatt did a awesome job. I thought my friends and I were speculating that she wasn't able to figure out how to loop it on anything, so she was just straight up holding him. Like he was gonna look, because especially with the way the camera angle was working on that scene, you get to see her and she was holding the rope, and he's gonna climb to the top, and he's like, "Oh, what the?" And he was gonna look past her and see that it wasn't hooked to anything. She couldn't figure out how to do any of the knots, so she was just straight up holding him, and he was gonna be like,
I would have flipped out if that was the case. I said, no, there is no way that a 70-pound girl is gonna lift an Adam Driver.
It would have made for some pretty funny comedic moment, but I like with the direction they took it. It works.
I think I think the way that they took it works better than the way that you just described.
That's what I was expecting. I'm not saying that it was like, oh, this would be better. I was just thinking like, oh, is that where this is going?
Don't get me wrong. I don't think that you thought that would be better. I'm just saying that I think they nailed it.
Yeah, they had a pretty good joke there.
Flippin' nailed it right there. Great job.
That was good. That was good. It was good. It was
All
really
right. We're at 153.
okay. Taylor, do you have any final remarks for our viewers?
Negative.
Any beginning remarks?
Oh, I got caught in the microphone cord. Oh,
It's okay. You're still good.
sweet.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining our 8th episode of Off the Rails, where we just talked about a lot of stuff right now. Global politics, the potential taking over of ChatGPT. Star Wars debate. Mace Windu, obviously.
Oh, we never
wins
did get
every
into
time.
Destiny 2.
We never did get into Destiny
I kept
2.
thinking about that, but then we just went other places.
Yeah. And some good movies that we saw. 65 million.
And next
was
time
a
we're going to talk
really
about
good
Destiny
one.
2.
Next time, Destiny 2.
If we remember.
If we remember.
True.
So remember, everyone, if you like the episode, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends out there. The more that you guys do this, the more we can get coverage. We can continue doing this. Also, remember to check out our other social media website places, things of exposure that we have: TikTok, Rumble, and we have a Twitter as well. And I think
We never
that's
checked that.
it. No, I gotta open up the Twitter and start doing stuff on that one.
I have no idea what's going down in Twitter land.
Yeah, me either. There's a lot. But I want you guys to make sure that you like, subscribe, hit the ding, the bell, the notifications thing, because we are going to be working on some other projects. We're going to be coming out with some new skits and things, new skits, new shorts, new stuff like that. So, with all of that being said, I hope you tracked it. I know I rambled on for a little bit there. I am Tony, and sitting next to me is...
I'm Taylor. And next, across the table from me,
I'm Kenny. And as always, Internet, it's your
your
move,
move.
Internet.